There's not a lot to notice or ponder on this stretch, so we took a small detour back in time to the Mansfield Civil War State Park's commemorative area. The town is named for the Earl of Man, a Scottish hero. Heroes are remembered in Mansfield. This ground was hallowed by a pivotal Civil War battle. Here the South foiled a Union advance into Texas. If you'll recall, after the fall of Vicksburg and Port Hudson in 1863, the Mississippi was dominated by Yankees. The Red River was not. The Union tried to cut rebel supplies of food and cotton from the West. President Lincoln's generals set their sights on Texas. If they could take Texas, they could sever French and Mexican help to the Confederacy and bring the state back into the Union. Union loyalists there might be so grateful they would help Lincoln be reelected. The Bluecoats had backup as ironclad gunboats came up the river north through Alexandria and Natchitoches, all the while pushing back those defending Southern forces. Their goal was the capture of Shreveport. In April 1864, the Yankees drifted away from the river and the protection of their naval firepower. That's when the Confederate strategists knew they could stop running. Historian Arthur Bergeron.
The Confederate Army under Major General Richard Taylor was retreating toward Shreveport, being pursued by the Union Army under Major General Nathaniel Banks. Taylor decided to halt his army here near the town of Mansfield and fight the battle that he thought would prevent Banks's army from reaching Shreveport. He essentially aligned his men on both sides of the road that went through this area and waited for the Federals to come up the winding, narrow road through the pine woods.
Just before the battle, a Texas soldier wrote to his wife, "The health of the boys here is tolerably good. We have had some pretty heavy marching to do lately. We have retreated some 250 miles. That isn't what I call giving back considerable. It is raining bad now, so no more at present, but remains ever yours truly until death." She never heard from him again. Taylor aligned his troops along both sides of the route. Along came the Yankees, marching nearly single file. Louisiana's hero general, Alfred Mouton, led his now famous 18th Regiment, and along with a Texas brigade, waited.
Eventually, a Union division came up, roughly 7,000 men, and took its position here near what is now this rail fence. The Union Army had an odd alignment. It was a 90-degree angle from about this position. The Confederates wanted to attack, but Taylor had to wait word from his superior in Shreveport, General Edmund Kirby Smith, whether or not it was okay to initiate a battle. By late afternoon, the skirmishing had been going on for a number of hours. Taylor had not heard anything from Kirby Smith, and rather than have the day end without any fighting at all, decided that he would order his troops forward. The Confederate attack began about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Taylor, because Mouton's men were from Louisiana, wanted them to attack first. So they made the initial assault and hit the Federal soldiers who were in position behind this rail fence. The Confederates did not fire their weapons during the initial wave of the assault, and literally hundreds of them were mowed down by the Union rifle fire and artillery fire. The lines, it said, shook several times from the impact of the enemy bullets. They eventually were able to realign themselves despite a heavy loss in officers, got to the fence, and essentially routed the Federal forces who were here, forcing them to turn and run in retreat.
At the battle, Mouton was killed, one story says, by captured Union troops who suddenly picked up their muskets and shot him. French-born General J.C. Polignac took over the charge and chased the Yankees down south to Pleasant Hill.
By 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the Confederates had defeated the first portion of the Federal Army here at the rail fence, pushed them back into retreat. Pursuing them, they came across a second group of Federals, which was coming up and was at approximately the position of Sabine Crossroads. That was the second phase of the battle. The Confederates attacked that portion of the Federal Army and quickly threw it into retreat. It was routed about as quickly or more quickly as the first phase of the battle.
Pursued by Southern fury, the Union Army ran to the sanctuary of their navy at Natchitoches, but the river, it seems, was loyal to the South. The water had dropped at Alexandria and trapped the northern gunboats. A Yankee engineer named Joseph Bailey had dams built to raise the water level. Finally free, the Union turned tail south. The South held on to much of Louisiana and all of Texas here at Mansfield by securing the whole wedge of land Highway 1 now traverses. It's all